I wanted to start with just a little bit of going back before we go to the future, and just learning a little bit about your past, particularly your childhood, your teenage years. Just tell us a little bit about your upbringing. What were you like as a young person, and what did you like doing? What did you focus on?
I was born in Yerevan and raised here, so I had chance to travel a lot, but my family is a very ordinary, as we can say, family. My father was a professor of physics in university and very disciplined person, but very open-minded. Was an MP and a businesswoman, so she was a very socially active person and was engaging us in all domains possible. And I have a sister 2 years younger than me, so we have a very, fun, happy childhood. And it, I think, gave me this profound feeling of happiness. When you have these memories of being happy, it helps a lot. Even if you are in a difficult situation, you find this warm and it gets better.
Great. So tell us about how you thought about education and how you thought about your own future as you were growing up, going into later years of your teenage years, and how did you start thinking about what you wanted to do in your life?
It was 1995, a year of adoption of our constitution. I became very interested in it, what's constitution, why are we adopting it? And it's fascinated me that is it so important to have, this law, this very important agreement in a society, and what will give it us? So I decided to think on going for legal studies, but my family was thinking that it would be great if I go to medical school. I escaped healthcare, but then I came back to it very soon. And I'm happy that I have decided to go for law. It gave me some type of mindset and ability to think on matters, on topics, and build my career, even not in a legal sphere, but it helps a lot, even now. I'm very happy that I have decided to pursue this career.
Yes. So, in a few interviews that I've done, one of the things that I've noticed for people who lived through this period of major transition is the way it's affected their lives, their early lives and their outlook. And I'm reminded, those of us who live in the diaspora, many of us are immigrants, and we see fundamental change in our lives, and that shapes us. In my case, I went from Lebanon to Canada to US, and it's really influenced my life. But as I listen to you and I've listened to others, and I wanted you to comment on this thought, I realized that those of you in Armenia who went through the transformation of the system and the country and the independence experienced a form of immigration yourself, because the whole country immigrated from what it used to be to now what it had to become, because all of a sudden it was displaced. I mean, immigration is displacement at an individual level, and in your case, the whole place was displaced. And the same kind of concerns and fear and uncertainty, but also opportunity, seems to have influenced your life. So, can you say a little more about how much that type of dislocation, displacement, shaped your thinking?
It's a very interesting point of view, Nubар, that yes, I was born in Armenia, I've stayed in Armenia and lived my life here. But Armenia had periods of transformation, very dramatic transformations. And we can say that, yes, in some time areas, we were also immigrants in our own country. When I was in school, it was a Soviet time period, a totally different country. Then independence, and we have a big transformation, which gave us this feeling of our own country, our own destination, and who we are in this new situation. Yes, it was a very challenging times, 90s, but also I remember them not with sorrow, but with pride, you know, because we were a part of very important time period for Armenia. Armenia is always in a process of dramatic, critical sometimes situations, but it gives you a power. It gives you some sense of that you are able to overcome challenges, very difficult challenges, and it gives us this feeling of, you know, sticking together and going through these difficulties together, and being able to look back and see what was done right, what was done wrong, how we can take this experience, difficult experience, and go forward. And when I was a student, I can say that I was in a kind of internal immigration, because the political situation, the economical situation was not good, and I had this feeling that I don't have a you know, place to fulfill my potential, to be free, to freely express your ideas, to be what you want to be, and to pursue your own understanding of our future. And after 2018, the main feeling that has changed was that, you know, you are free. Yes, there are more challenges. There are difficult situations, but you have this potential to show who you are. What can you do for this country? And this is the time of, you know, taking the responsibility. Yes, you are not just not complaining and dreaming, but you can also work to fulfill these dreams for your country.
That's great. That's a really great answer. And, you know, it's a little bit, it kind of makes the point that we're all immigrants if we're trying to do something good for the world. And in this case, what you described sounds like, from your life experience, you tried to adapt to the country for many years, the new country that was emerging, and ultimately circumstances caused the country to adapt to you, or to people like you who wanted it to be a different way. And I think that's also what often immigrants do in new countries, is that they essentially bring about change so that actually the country represents them and not just what it used to be. So it really is, at least in my experience, in many different areas, a competition between the past and the future that's forming, and the past that's pulling it back. But at the same time, the people, the immigrants who are trying to make that change, are in the middle, you know, with these forces. So it's very interesting.
Just wanted to tell that I'm also a professionally immigrant. You know, I've came from different profession to healthcare, and I'm the first woman on this position, and first non-medical doctor in this position. So it also gives me this freedom of not knowing some things and asking for advice, for being open to all people, giving their understanding of how we are going to go as a healthcare.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. And in fact, as you know, I mean, that's one of the most powerful ways to make progress, is to remain humble. And one of the ways to be humble is to do things that are new, which remind you that you're not an expert, but experts don't necessarily make change either. And so you really need this combination of experts and non-experts to create novelty, to create change. So that's what you've experienced. You spent some time being a legal advisor for government institutions and then an NGO. And that kind of legal experience and policy experience eventually led you to the healthcare space in Armenia. So how did that happen?
I worked in a pharmaceutical industry, and I've started from legal advisor. Then I became a manager, general manager of the company, but also had a chance to work with different, as you have said, NGOs and organizations to advise them on legal matters. Then when revolution happened, I was offered to become a part of this team, and was very happy, because I think that it's good to change your domain on different time areas. It gives you a fresh perspective. It gives you a possibility to use your expertise in, for example, private sector, and bring it to the governmental sector. And you know, in a private sector, everything is very quick, everything is very challenging, and you think totally different way. So, and I'm happy that I have this experience of working for a private company as a business. It helps a lot. And now, as a state person, I always remind myself that whatever you decide, it has a price for a private sector, for an individual, for a person. And having this experience give you responsibility to be very cautious. So I always knew that on some point I would be happy to be in a politics. I thought will give me possibility to fulfill my desires, my dreams on how I see my state. And so I came to this point.
Great. So maybe just to focus in on healthcare a little bit. Obviously, anytime you switch from private sector to a public service role, you are confronted with just enormous challenges. That's kind of part of the job. And at the same time, these challenges are opportunities, and you can begin to make progress and begin to attack them. So how would you describe to the listener just the top 2-3 greatest challenges in healthcare in Armenia while you've been in this position?
We had 2 big challenges. This was a pandemic, and of course the war situation, which changed the whole perspective of what we are doing. But you know, as a long-term challenge, I would mention, of course, the financing of the healthcare. Many years, healthcare in Armenia was not a priority in the government, and for spending more financial resources to build accessible accessible care with which will provide also quality, not only the quantity of care, but also the quality of care. So we work on it very hard to change the focus and put health on a very high position as a priority. Of course, pandemic changed not only in Armenia, but also globally, the understanding of health as a security matter, that we need to invest in health systems in a quiet times. So we will be prepared for pandemics, for different critical situations in future. And the second one, you know, the focus of treatment and not the keeping people healthy. This is also a very big challenge. When you focus only on treatment, you will be always, you know, go behind the time and behind the challenges. So we need to change our efforts also to prevent diseases and to invest in healthier population. Also, the problem of educated, skillful workforce and people, human resources, I think are the most critical part of our progress, that we need to have more people who know how to do things, who are dedicated to the matters, and this is my challenge.
I know you mentioned that in many ways Armenia isn't alone in facing these challenges, and I know that you've also participating in the World Health Organization in trying to bring together the experiences of different countries and different approaches. Tell us a little bit about how it feels to be from Armenia, but part of the WHO in those international meetings. It must be a special feeling, just like when Armenia first participated in the United Nations and different international bodies. Now in the health sphere, tell us a little bit about that.
This year is a 30-year anniversary of joining the UN and different agencies. So it's a good milestone to see what we have done to bring our experience into this international family and what we can gain from them. These 2 years we have tried to be more engaged in these organizations, be more proactive and work hard not only to get from these organizations, also to share our experience, because I think that we have very good success stories also to share them, to show how we as a small country with limited resources, with huge challenges, deal with healthcare challenges. Armenia had done a very good progress, for example, in immunization, child immunization, in child mortality rates, and there are many areas where we have done a progress, and we can share these success stories. It is also good, it's a big network. It's ministers of health from different countries who come together to share thoughts, ideas, and you gain a lot from them. It's also an honor, present your country, to speak up about your country, and bring the your country's interests in these organizations. You need to be proactive for promoting your country, for going more tight bilateral cooperation. So this is the vision that I see. We need to be more proactive in gaining and also for providing.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the connection to the world and an international organization. We have an unusual existence as Armenians, because not only are we in the international sphere, but we have an intranational network all around the world as well, inside our nation. And of course, there I'm talking about the many diasporas all around the world, and the resources we have in also healthcare, in both the delivery and the development of new approaches, etc. So in this role of Minister of Health in Armenia, to what extent do intranational networks matter to you strategically, and how do you relate to being able to both benefit from but also influence what that global network can do for Armenia?
It's an important and good question. As you have said, it's a big resource, but how to use it, how to organize the work, the cooperation between us. Sometimes very different people from different cultures and having different expectations from each other. So I think we need to learn how to communicate better with each other, you know, as a network, to have clear expectations, more pragmatic expectations from each other, and to have a vision for you know, where are we going. So we need to show and to present, for example, in a healthcare, what are the most important domains of our concerns now, how we see our future development of the healthcare system. And when this network, these people from very different countries learn better about Armenia, about the current situation, about the vision of the future, they will have more understanding how we can cooperate with each other. As I have mentioned, human resources and developing this resource, Armenian resource, is crucial for our development. And this is where our diaspora can invest in educating our young generation, and not only, but strengthening the skills and knowledge of workforce. This is also very important, current workforce. Give them more opportunity to be connected with the world, and also the you know, the dedication for our country. I think the one thing is certain, that strong Armenia is utmost important, not only for Armenians living in Armenia, but also all Armenians over the world. I believe no Armenian can be happy, fulfilled, secured, if there is not strong Armenia.
Great. As you think about the future of healthcare in Armenia, and of course there are needs that the country has and the population has for better health and all of that part, but also healthcare could be seen as potentially an area of competitive development in Armenia, where Armenia could provide healthcare and healthcare services to a broader population as part of its economic development. How do you in the ministry think about healthcare as an economic development arena, which still is dealing with people's health, even while trying to improve the overall health of the citizens? Are those both factoring into your vision?
Of course, my main concern as a minister is public health. But of course, healthcare is a sector of economy, and in the world, it's becoming one of the most important areas to invest. And after pandemic, we see this, you know, change of interest into healthcare. I believe that there are sectors in healthcare in Armenia that are very interesting for investors, not only for local ones, but also for international. I think that there is a room to have more investments in healthcare as a sector. But first of all, I believe that, for example, health tourism, which is also a very interesting topic, can be a success story when the healthcare in the country is in a service of their own population. When the population of the country is content with the quality of the care, information goes out also from the country, and it bring investments, bring tourists to the country. So, of course, our main goal is to have accessible healthcare for our population. But I believe if we fulfill this part, we will be very interesting also for other people to come to Armenia have treatment, to gain services here.
You mentioned, and I'm going to bring the conversations to an end soon. You mentioned earlier about health not only being about sickness, but also prevention and doing things that maintain health. And this is something that is of great interest to me in my professional life, because, you know, we've observed, you know, also in the United States, the degree to which what we mean by healthcare is really just sick care. And because the only time you get healthcare is when you're sick. So I never understood why it's called healthcare, because you know, that there should be such a thing as healthcare, but we have very, very little care of our health. We think of well-being as health, but that's two different things. If health is the absence of disease, then the question is, what are we doing to proactively, preemptively keep that state? So in your vision, there's so much to do, there's so much disease burden to take care of. How do you make room for this type of pre-sickness, early sickness way to maintain and promote health, as opposed to deal with only sickness?
Sometimes when we focus on more well-being and staying healthy, some people say you have so many areas of malfinancement or little access to treatment. Why are you thinking on preventive care so much? So I say, you know, of course, in a short time, as a short-time strategy, we need to focus on treatment. But if not from now, we think on staying healthier, in 2, 3, 10 years, we will need double budget for treatment. So yes, even in these critical situations, we need to transfer our efforts to more keeping people healthier. I can bring you an example. We have passed our anti-tobacco law, and it went with very big challenges, but we have succeeded. And today we have all the regulations that will decrease the usage of tobacco, which is an investment into the future. We work on education in the schools, and starting from the first grade, giving our children health literacy, and giving them, you know, healthy lifestyle. This is also very important. When you start your childhood with healthy habits, you will stick them in the course of your life. We work very hard with the Ministry of Education to bring this health literacy into the curriculum of our schools, and work on it every time to engage people in sports, in healthy diet, and things like that. So yes, if we don't work now on keeping our population healthy, it will bring us to a point where our economical potential as a country will decrease in a matter of years, because we have the burden of diseases in Armenia, which does not allow us to fulfill our potential till 70 years, 75 years fully. So this is important investment to work on. I know that even the developed countries have difficulties to, you know, refocus of this matter, but we need to work on it.
Well, no, I commend you on passing the law on tobacco. I also think it's great that you're proactively thinking about how to make room for the future, even while fighting the fires of the present. That's the biggest challenge in government, the biggest challenge in leadership, is that the present is so preoccupying that it's very difficult to do things that also make the future better. And I would observe, as I'm sure the listeners will, that perhaps partly your lack of spending the last 20 years in healthcare has given you a different perspective and a respect for your responsibilities towards the future, and not only what can you do for the immediate present, given the role you have. Because if every healthcare minister essentially delays the future and only focuses on the present, then the job gets harder and harder, as you said, and the costs go higher and higher. And that's what we've been experiencing in the United States. 20% of the GDP is spent on health. 10 to 15 years from now, that number may become 30%. I mean, that will bankrupt any country. And so I think I really encourage you to continue to make the case for future. It's difficult. It's difficult with limited budgets. It's difficult with competing priorities. But in every ministry, but especially in yours, I mean, this program is called kind of more in a soft way, Ministry of Future Affairs, because we've observed that the future usually has no ministry. It's usually the present, which is the preoccupation. So I'm very happy to hear you talking about the future. So just on that note, maybe just to kind of end our conversation, give us your view of what you might imagine 20 years from now healthcare to look like in Armenia, through your efforts, through the efforts of people who follow you. What do you have in your imagination?
It's always good to dream, I believe that having all the population covered by the universal health coverage and giving people the sense of security that their health and their well-being of their families are meted, and also the quality of care. I believe that we need to work more on it, and having better health outcomes, not only spending more and more on healthcare, but spending wisely and having better outcomes. Focusing on next generation, giving them the resource, the ability and the knowledge how to appreciate this resource of health, and thinking about their health not when they become sick or when they become old, but in duration of whole lifetime. So this is a resource, our health, that we have, and we need to invest and appreciate it into it. This is important. Of course, for Armenia, I see that security is the most important thing that we've all concerned, and I hope that we will have more stability for our country, for our region, and we'll have opportunity to think not only for a survival, but for creation of things, of having this capacity and room for dreams, for work, for love, for friendship, and I believe that we will have it.
Yeah, super. Well, that's a great way to end it. I mean, in my own terminology, it's always a journey from surviving to thriving, and the present causes you to worry about things that involve surviving, especially when you're under threat all the time, as we are in Armenia. But the future has to preoccupy with thriving, because the only way to get out of the mode of constantly surviving is to start building ways to thrive, which is what you're talking about. Thrive not only as a country, as economic, but individuals, and give them the liberty and the tools with which to express themselves. So look, it's been great to have the discussion. I'm very happy that you were willing to join us, and you have served as an inspiration to young girls and boys who are in your shoes when you were studying, I'm sure, to follow this path and get engaged, especially in public service, so that the country can advance. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure